Hey, how's it going? Um, Want to talk a little bit about how many Christians are caught in a kind of a bind, and it's often because they want to be caught in a bind. And it's clearly Jesus and money. Many Christians clearly worship money over Jesus. They'll say no, of course, but when push comes to shove, um, they will not practice or promote what Jesus taught. I mean, I get into this all the time with people who call themselves Christians, and they'll just say commie, socialist, all that nonsense. But Christ clearly, was not for making people rich. Um, I mentioned before, obviously, some verses are, for example, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? That's a huge one. You cannot serve God and money. The wealthy man Zacchaeus, who told Jesus, he basically repented and told Jesus that he would give to the poor half his money and give back four times what he stole. That's obviously a big one. Um, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to get to heaven. And there are other ones. We look in Proverbs and in various places. It's all over the Bible. The truth is, Christ did not teach about being rich. Did not say you'll be rich. He did say you'll have problems in this world and you'll struggle in this world. A lot of people again want, they'll say the opposite, of course. And a lot of these televangelist preachers preach that because they're living large in this life, loaded with money. Don't preach on sin, not really. Certainly don't preach on the poor and the fact that you're not supposed to be rich in this life. The Apostle Paul said, "Don't give me poverty nor riches." And I've mentioned this before. This is why socialism, in part, is interesting. Not all of it. Some of it's very shady and not good. But economically, there's no question what Christ taught is more in line with socialism. Um, and a lot of people promote capitalism because they want to be rich. Just say, "Oh, Jesus was not a socialist." He wasn't. It wasn't so quote socialism wasn't around then, but clearly he promoted socialist ideas more than capitalist ideas as we would understand them today. Um, I look at some of these things that people who call themselves socialists are doing. Look what they're doing. They're talking about everyone having a home, talking about everyone having health care. They're talking about being treated well on the job, possibly a 4-day work week, a living wage. All this stuff where modern day capitalism teaches keep working your butt off, bury yourself into the ground, have dreams of being like these super few billionaires, 900 billionaires in America, and these, or like these super multi-millionaires, worth a couple hundred million or 100 million, 300 million. I'm sorry, 300. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, right, 300 million. And Christ did not teach that. He just didn't. And it's frustrating because I came to this conclusion really from reading the Bible. And I'd be like, why is the church not teaching this? Or, it touches on it a little bit, but not enough, not enough. And there's no question Christ was about sharing with other people. And I remember Mayor Mamdani said something interesting. He said, life is hard, but it shouldn't have to be this hard. And you know what? He's right. Economically, there's a lot of truth there, what he's saying. And this fellow in Maine, Mr. Graham Plattner, he's touching on things too. The same type of thing. Why is it all rigged? Why is the system all rigged? And it is. It's rigged in favor of the rich. It's obvious. We used to have much higher tax codes on the rich. Even in the 1970s, the highest was 70%. And then trickle-down economics came with Reagan, and it's pretty much been, that since with various presidents messing with it. The rate, but pretty much it was much lower, obviously, now compared to then. And we had times in the 1950s it was 91%. We've had times it was in the 80s, percentage-wise, on the richest. I think a lot of people live in fantasy world that they're going to be one of those people, and don't take it from me, type thing. But the love of money, again, love of money is warned about in the Bible, how evil it is, and that it destroys societies. And we're at that point. America, I think, now you have data centers. They're taking the water, taking the land, destroying the environment, and then they're going to steal your jobs. I mean, how much more are people supposed to take? The love of money ruins societies. These people want more and more and more, and they want slavery back. Basically, they'll never say that, but they want a form of slavery back, of course. Because their god is money. That's it. Elon Musk is talking. He's pushing on $1 trillion. He wants $10 trillion. Jeff Bezos of Amazon is worth 250 billion. All that. And he could say, yeah, these people are geniuses, this and that, and they are. There's no question they are. And they're getting rewarded for it. The question is, how much should you be rewarded for it? How much should the workers be rewarded? Because without the workers, they wouldn't be nearly as wealthy. So that's really the issue, and that's the tug of war happening. Because America's definitely facing serious issues. Again, reading the Bible, reading the gospel of Jesus Christ. Christ was absolutely not promoting capitalism. It's total bull. And people who say, oh, that's not true, they just say it's not true. And like, oh, Jesus was not a socialist. That's it. They stop at that. Because they don't have an argument. Because the gospel shows totally different. He did not promote being rich. Again, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter heaven. And on and on. So, it's interesting, and that really woke me up to many preachers, and you look at how they're living, living pretty large, and, others aren't. Others are preaching the full word, without a doubt. But if they're preaching money a lot, or their homes are really big, and their cars are real nice, and all that, and they're preaching, they're never going to dive into that. Doesn't mean they don't do good things, doesn't mean they don't raise money for the poor, they do. But they're never going to go deeper where if it's really affecting them, they're just not. Because the proof is in the pudding. They're not promoting what Christ said enough. They're not. They may get into other things that Christ said, but when it comes to finances, they won't, because they want the money first. And a lot of Christians are the same way, and many people live on a fantasy that they'll be the Elon Musk or Bezos or Warren Buffett or, on and on, you name it. So you want to really know what Christ taught on the rich and the poor? Start reading the New Testament. And even in the Old Testament, there's many discussions about treating the poor well. Proverbs is one of them, and you can look for others, but Christ for sure taught on the evils of wealth and the obsessions on it. So let's keep it real. And again, this is why some of these socialists are gaining power, because people are fried. People are exhausted. People are not doing it anywhere as good as their parents did. This young generation is really facing it hard, and there's a lot of bitterness and anger. You have this fellow Kevin O'Leary with the data centers. He's beyond rich, super loaded. He's this old guy, basically 71 or whatever he is, something like that, and promoting, how much more money do you need, dude? You like $500 million you have. What do you need data centers for? Oh, we got to keep up. It's all stupidity. It's all about making the rich wealthier. And again, Christ did not promote that. And if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, you follow the gospel. Because at the end, we're all leaving this place. I lived the majority of my life. I'll be checking out of this place relatively soon. Hopefully, some decades or a couple of decades or what have you, but maybe not. It could be a year from now. It could be tomorrow. But it's urgent that we really start preaching what Christ said. And he did not promote people being rich. God bless you. Amen.